At my old work, I found a box of old microscope slides. Most of these were prepared in the 1850s, some apparently won some prizes, and some are amazingly decorated, compared to your average classroom microscope slide. So let's get the microscope out and take a look. First up is this amazing antlion slide, with this blue and gold pattern with a thistle and a shamrock on it. So let's have a look at this beast. It has these huge jaws that are longer than its own head, and which are covered in spikes to grip onto its prey. Antlions are the juveniles or larvae of a kind of lacewing fly, and at this young stage they bury themselves in sand, soil or leaf litter and wait for insects such as ants to come along before ambushing them with these huge powerful jaws. Most of these slides appear to be from a French collection, and I think this one says one leaf of something divided into 3. But if your French is better than mine, let me know if it says more. The leaf has been stained, but some of the epithelial layers have come away, leaving the veins of the leaf showing through. Zooming in just once, there's not much to see. Kind of looks like twiglets or something. But zooming in further on the epithelial layers, we can see the stomata of the leaf, which are holes through which the gases will exchange, like carbon dioxide and oxygen, so that the plant can breathe. So next is the proboscis of a blowfly. Blowflies being your typical houseflies like bluebottles, and the proboscis being this elongated mouthpart with this double padded, branched or mop-like structure on the end. It's essentially a bunch of tubes that it uses to suck up liquid, or if it lands on solid food, it'll partially digest it by ejecting some stomach fluids before then sucking them up. So yeah, pretty disgusting. This next slide is labelled Pleurosigma angulatum test, and it says it's a diatom. Diatoms are single-celled algae that are generally found in the oceans, forming a large part of the photosynthetic plankton that form the basis of oceanic food chains. So diatoms build cell walls out of silica, so they have these hard exoskeletons that form lots of different cool shapes, like these which kind of have a twisted boomerang shape. I've heard diatoms being referred to as algae that grow their own greenhouse around them, with which they'll focus light to do photosynthesis. When this light goes through the silica cell walls, it will diffract in all different colours and look amazing. It's not showing up too well here, but there are more diatom slides to come. Now this next one says épiderme d'araignée, meaning spider skin in French. It's hard to make anything out at lower magnifications, but zooming in, we see this fingerprint pattern and all of these holes throughout the surface. These holes are called spiracles or spiracles, and like the stomata of the leaf we saw earlier, these are how arachnids and other arthropods draw air into their bodies to breathe, rather than using a single airway like we do. But spiders will also draw air in through some internal structures known as book lungs, because they have many flat layers like the pages of a book. And I think these honeycomb-like structures are a slice or cross-section of those book lungs, with all of these struts supporting the lungs forming all of these little holes. This one says Helleborus foetidus coupe de l'enfer, meaning anther cups of the stinking hellebore plant. Anthers are the end of the stamen or the male reproductive part of a flower, so these are where pollen is released from, and so these are the things that might give you hay fever in the summer. Sticking on the theme of flowers, we have the petals of something. Can't quite make that word out, but it has this very cool pink array of plant cells under the microscope. Next is the cuticle of Deutzia scabra, another flowering plant. And cuticle just means the outer layer or the skin. There are all of these star-shaped structures across it, and I think these are trichomes, which are essentially defensive structures that might either trap moisture around the stomata to prevent water loss, or perhaps even to irritate herbivores that might try to eat the plant. Next we have the gemmules from a sponge. So sponges are an animal that attaches to the sea floor to filter food from the water, and gemmules, which are these little spots, are essentially little packets of cells that some sponges can use to reproduce asexually, meaning without a partner. They have an outer layer formed out of hard structures called spicules, often made from silica, so they're sort of iridescent like the diatoms I mentioned earlier, especially as I alter the focus on the microscope. These long spines around the gemmules are likely another type of spicule that the sponge would have instead used for defense against would-be predators. This slide contains young oysters. So the oysters that you might get at a restaurant if you're posh start off as these D-shaped larvae floating about in the water column. They will eventually develop the ability to swim before settling on the surface of a rock to turn into adults and eventually grow into the size and shape that we're more familiar with. Next are more spicules or spicula of a sponge, specifically from whichever species that says, found in Madeira, Hyperdesmia something. These look like some sort of microscopic staples of the ocean, and there are lots of different kind of spicules with different shapes and functions out there. With a bit of digging, I found that these are a type called Diansistra, and like the staples fastening paper together, these hooks help to bind the sponge's tissue together, maybe even helping to attach it onto surfaces and keep it from being dislodged. So this one is a parasitic mite from some horsehair. This is specifically Sarcoptes equi, and sarcoptic mites are what causes scabies, or a type of mange in different mammals. This one specifically horses. They burrow into the skin, causing itching, hair loss and other nasty symptoms. There's its mouthparts and its arms that it uses to burrow into the skin of the poor animal. There's its bum. Nice. And it will actually be its poo that irritates the skin and causes all of these nasty, painful symptoms. So up next, we actually have a little separate packet of slides that has been labelled prizes. Inside there are 5 slides, each with a small insignia on it, and it says it was selected. I'm guessing for some sort of microscopy competition back in the day. One is another diatom, and the others are labelled polycystina, which are a type of thing called a radiolarian, something else that forms part of the plankton in the oceans. First we have Podocertis mitra, and these things almost look like little spaceships from 1950s sci-fi or even Lovecraftian creatures or something. So radiolarians are single-celled organisms in a group closer to plants than to us or fungi. But like sponge gemmules and the diatoms we've seen, they have a silica-based skeleton, so form these kind of elaborate shapes with all these different holes that you can see here. Apparently to feed, they'll extend a soft arm-like structure called a pseudopodium, or fake foot, pseudofoot, which is essentially like an extension of the soft cell membrane that's within that hard skeleton, coming out of an opening at the base to catch smaller plankton like algae or diatoms. Next is Halioma humboldti, perhaps named after the explorer Alexander von Humboldt. Sort of star-shaped with all these different spikes on the surface, quite cool. The next one is labelled Cambridge Barbados, or Barbados, and after looking into this a bit, I think this might not be a species name, but a reference to a particular beach in Cambridge, Barbados, where a lot of these specimens have been collected. Quite cool, with all these sort of cross shapes with spines coming out of these cup-like extensions. And as I vary the focus, you can really see that diffracted light coming through the silica skeleton. Next is Lychnocanium lucerne. More cool spaceship looking things. Although looking at the Wikipedia page for this order of radiolarians, because radiolarian knowledge is pretty obscure, give me a break, they do look a lot more like those on the left rather than the one with the same genus name on the right. So maybe some mislabeling somewhere, I'm not sure. But more cool otherworldly looking things though. Although perhaps it's a bit weird that I think of these as otherworldly when things like this form the basis of food chains that support most life on Earth. But they're alien to us, I suppose. Last but not least from this little prizes group, we have some more diatoms, apparently from Peru. Very small things. If we zoom in here, they each have 2 circles on either side of the cell. And to be honest, I think there might have been some sort of mix-up here. Searching the name, I came across this site which has a picture of the exact slide I found, but a very different diatom. It makes more sense that the one on the website would be the Triceratium, since the name means 3 horns and the one pictured has 3 sides. And on the same site I found one called Orliscus racemosus, which looks a lot more like what I'm seeing under the microscope. Perhaps I got my footage mixed up, or maybe something has happened with the slide, seeing from that central bit that it's obviously been damaged. Who knows what's happened along the way here. So that was 2 of the packets in this box. I really enjoyed looking at them, so I filmed some more, and I have enough footage for another video or 2 to come. If you made it this far, well done, and thank you very much for watching.